families, that we will look up for families, that we will legislate to prosper families. And instead, the family is only a point of leverage for our Democrat colleagues. How sad is that? You know, I'm thinking about military families right now. I'm thinking about that soldier who is deployed around the globe to keep our country safe, to push back against a threat. And I'm thinking about that phone call that that soldier probably received this year, this month, in the last couple of days, asking whether or not they're going to get a paycheck, talking about the new baby at home, trying to figure out if they're going to be able to pay their rent or even buy some groceries or put gas in the car. I was there. I'm a veteran. I've been serving on active duty when shutdowns happened. This is a very stressful time for military families. And commanders right now, instead of being focused on the mission, instead of being focused on the threat, instead of being focused on the training and the exercises that keep our readiness and our lethality at the highest possible levels, now they're focusing all of their attention on making sure that their families of their subordinates, their soldiers and their airmen, their Marines, their sailors, are taken care of, that they actually have the resources. And we have members of the Republican Party who are in our communities right now convening groups of community leaders and banks, food banks, and other resources. Because Schumer has chosen not to pay them, now communities are having to take up with 0% interest bridge loans. Now communities are having to defer those mortgage payments and those car payments. So where the Democrat Party is failing, our communities are succeeding, because they know that the right thing to do is to fund and help in this time of need. You know, the enemy has not shut down. Our enemies around the world want us to be divided. I'm calling on my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who served in the military to do the right thing. We were there. We were there when Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi put CRs on the floor, and guess what? We did the right thing. Multiple times we did the right thing. Where are my Democrat colleagues who served in uniform to stand up and rise above petty politics, to do the right thing? Have you not gone home to your districts to hear from your military communities, from your federal workers? Have you not listened to your local communities telling you to stop the nonsense? No. You know what? They're not there. They're in New York City campaigning for Mondami. Maybe they've orchestrated this so that they had the time to go campaign for an outright socialist. Maybe this was orchestrated so they could go do that. Now, this isn't the party of JFK anymore. This is the party of Schumer and Mondami, the party that bows to the radical left. I hope that everybody can see the split screen of what's happening in this country. The Speaker has so eloquently talked about the fact that Republicans are doing our job to take care of families, that over 13 times the Senate Republicans have voted to fund our military, to fund TSA, to make sure our Border Patrol can get paid and all federal workers can get paid. And Democrats continue to obstruct. I hope you can see the dichotomy between the two sides here. And I'm calling on Democrat members, especially those who served in the military, to do the right thing and to stop the nonsense. With that, I hand it over to my good friend, our leader, Mr. Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Chairman Pfluger. Thank you for your service to our country, especially to all those men and women who are currently serving our nation, whether it be in the military, federal employees that are still working, showing up on their job, but because of Chuck Schumer and Democrats who have bowed to the socialist radicals in their party, those federal workers are not getting paid. We've talked up here for weeks now about some of those hardships, how it's going to affect people, and ultimately now how it is affecting people. Those impacts are now being felt. It's not hypothetical anymore. It's not some memo from a department laying out what might happen. We're starting to hear those stories. You can see, and our conference chair, Lisa McLean, has done a really good job of compiling a lot of the work that's being done by many of our colleagues. One of the reasons we're not meeting in session is because the Democrats shut down the government, but also because of that shutdown, our members are now busy in their districts mopping up a lot of the mess created by those Democrats because of the shutdown, the hardships it's created on families. And those are real hardships, and I applaud my colleagues who are in their districts trying to figure out ways to help people during this difficult time, working with food banks to get food to people who are missing SNAP benefits, WIC payments, military members who are not getting paid, but they're overseas, as Chairman Pfluger talked about. While their family's still here, those babies still have needs, and yet the paycheck's not coming in. Those bills are still due. And Democrats think this is some kind of game. Speakers talked about this over and over again, but what has their reaction been? Not figuring out a solution to get out of it, an off-ramp. It's doing stupid TikTok videos, making fun of this situation, thinking that the American people are leverage in their game to get some kind of unachievable goal, $1.5 trillion in new spending, $200 billion in taxpayer benefits for illegals, gutting $50 billion out of a health care fund for rural hospitals. And again, they try to claim it's about something else. Maybe it's about health care. Well, if it was about health care, they wouldn't be gutting $50 billion out of the rural health care fund. They wouldn't have fought, by the way, on the Senate floor months ago to remove a provision, the cost-sharing ratios, that would have lowered premiums on families by 11%. It was in our bill. We voted for it, passed out of the House. Democrats are still to this day bragging that they removed that provision from the bill that would have lowered premiums, health insurance premiums on families by 11%. And they want to talk about health care? Give me a break. Look at what they've done. They've wrecked the health care system. They fought to raise premiums on families. Democrats have over and over again, and now they're imposing real pain on American families with this shutdown. We've got some new numbers that have come in, and these are not good numbers, unfortunately. Reuters reported more than 2,700 flight delayed nationwide on Monday, and more than 8,600 flight delays just Sunday. 8,600 flight delays. Think of how many families were impacted. Every flight, well over 100 people on each one of those 8,600 flights that were delayed, all because Chuck Schumer and radical Democrats want to use American people as leverage. A Democrat aide said they won't concede short of, quote, planes falling out of the sky. Who are these people? Didn't they once care about this great nation and making it better? And now they think if a plane falls out of the sky, that's their leverage? For what? Goodness. Chuck Schumer, quote, every day gets better for us. Who is us? Because I can tell you who them are. The American people are sick and tired of Chuck Schumer and his friends thinking it's a better day for him when they are feeling more pain. Senator Coons, quote, the point of this shutdown is not just suffering for suffering's sake, but to make a point, as if suffering of the American people is not enough. We've heard, of course, over and over again, Catherine Clark, shutdowns are terrible. Of course, there will be families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leverage times we have. They keep saying over and over again, they know American people are suffering. They don't care. They want leverage for themselves. They want to show off to their radical socialist base. Bernie, of course, Bernie Sanders, who was on the stage with AOC over with Mandami the other day with their socialist love fest. Bernie, quote, you reopen the government and we lose our leverage. That's what this whole shutdown is about. They're telling you what they mean. Democrats sourced in the Hill article last week that we talked about, quote, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine. This is Democrats being afraid of their own base because their base is so radical that they're afraid of their base. The American Federation of Government Employees, we talked about this yesterday, came out and said, quote, "It's time to pass a clean continuing resolution and end this shutdown today. No half measures and no gamesmanship." Rep. Amelia Sykes said, quote, "We know that people are going to suffer if we don't open the government. People will go hungry." Well, she knows it. She's causing that hunger, but let's put a point on this. In an ABC article regarding the 42 million Americans that are going to lose SNAP benefits next week, Joel Berg, who's the CEO of the nonprofit Hunger Free America, said this, quote, "We are going to see the greatest hunger crisis since the Great Depression." And that's not hyperbole, that's just true. The greatest hunger crisis since the Great Depression, when 42 million people lose their SNAP benefits this weekend. What are these Democrats waiting for? This is not a game. This is not leverage. They're taking food off the table for families, for babies. It's disgusting. It's time to end the madness. They can go on the Senate floor today. Just 5 of them need to get courage. Just 5 of them need to get the courage to do the right thing and open the government today and end this pain and end the suffering that they've caused. Then we can go negotiate our differences. Yield to the whip. Time ever.
As has been mentioned, yesterday the largest federal workers union in the country, that represent 820,000 federal workers, released a statement calling on Democrats to stop playing political games, pass our clean CR, and reopen the government. What was Chuck Schumer's response? Silence. Crickets. He declined to comment. Meanwhile, millions of federal workers are reevaluating how to make ends meet. Air traffic controllers missed their first full paycheck today. Some are turning to food banks, as we've discussed, in order to feed their families. Here is what one Democrat and retired federal worker had to say about the current state of play. Quote, "The Democrats are the ones that actually, in the Senate side, shut down the government. So they have to get together and stop holding Americans hostage. We're about to have people without food, and that's ridiculous. It's not worth it." Remember, that's coming from a Democrat and retired federal worker. Since Chuck Schumer and company won't listen to us, maybe they'll start listening to members of their own party. Enough is enough. You're playing politics with people's lives, and as Leader Scalise and the Speaker have reminded us, for what? So that you can appease the radical pro-terrorist wing of your party, so that you can fundraise off of picking a fight with President Trump. It's not worth it. In fact, it's despicable and downright wrong. There's a nonpartisan government funding bill waiting in the Senate to be sent to President Trump's desk immediately. It will come to the floor for a vote for the 13th time this morning. Put an end to the madness. Do the right and reasonable thing that you did back in March, by the way, and vote yes on our clean CR. Instead of complaining about a new White House ballroom, how about you try doing your actual job and reopen the government for the people you were elected to serve? Our conference chair.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. And I first want to extend a thank you to the RSC chair and the members of the RSC who are here today. And thank you for all the work that you've been doing in the district. I know we appreciate it, and more importantly, I know your constituents appreciate it. I know I've been standing at this podium with Speaker Johnson and House leadership for weeks now. And every time we have said the same thing. Republicans voted to keep the government open. Democrats voted to shut it down. Period. It is that simple. This week, more than any other week, the consequences become impossible to ignore. As of yesterday, more than 10,000 flights have been delayed because of staffing shortages. By the end of this week, nearly 2 million paychecks will be missed by Americans. And by Saturday, 42 million Americans will lose their SNAP benefits. Let that sink in. 42 million Americans will lose their SNAP benefits this Saturday because Democrats want to use them as leverage. This is real pain, real fear, and real consequences. And Democrats are using that as political leverage. And leverage for what? Ask them this. Leverage for what? To force through illegal benefits for illegal immigrants to the tune of $1.5 trillion? 42, they'd rather do that and put 42 million Americans at risk of losing their SNAP benefits. That's what they're choosing. That's what they're choosing. Let that sink in for a minute. This isn't leadership. This is cruel and disgusting, and it's cruelty disguised as politics. Even the president of the largest federal workers union, and I don't know if you noticed that, but he doesn't exactly always cheer for Republicans, but this gentleman is actually begging the Democrats to do the right thing and end the shutdown. While Democrats posture in front of the cameras, Republicans are actually out in their districts working. Just take a look at the video that we've been playing all morning, right? Don't let the facts get in the way of the good story. Republicans, like the colleagues you see behind me, have been in their district working for the American people who are suffering from this Democratic Schumer-led shutdown. You will see Republicans volunteering at food banks, Republicans supporting rural hospitals, Republicans cleaning up national parks, and Republicans helping people in real ways. Republicans believe in solutions, not stunts. We believe in serving the American people, not using them. So while Democrats try to turn American hardship into political currency, Republicans are working to reopen the government, to restore paychecks, and bring stability back to American families. Because this isn't about leverage, it's about people. And we are here to serve. It's about time the Democrats remember who they serve. Thank you.
All right, questions? Go ahead, first. Go ahead.
Earlier this week, President Trump floated running for president again in 2028. Are you comfortable with those comments, and you're a constitutional lawyer, with that violating?
Well, there is the 22nd Amendment. I spoke with the president about an hour ago. It's late in the evening in Japan. He's working around the clock, serving the American people. He doesn't stop. Talk about someone who works around the clock. And as Chairman Pfluger mentioned a moment ago, and as we've reiterated in here so many times, you're looking at the split screen because under President Trump, the Republican Party has delivered. I mean, you're talking about reducing taxes, reducing regulations, cutting fraud, waste, and abuse, ended the border crisis, ending the crime crisis, resolving conflicts, wars around the globe, and working on these amazing trade agreements. It's been a great run, but I think the President knows, and he and I have talked about the constrictions of the Constitution, as much as so many of the American people lament that. The Trump 2028 cap is one of the most popular that's ever been produced, and he has a good time with that, trolling the Democrats, whose hair is on fire about the very prospect. But I do believe that we've got 3 extraordinary years ahead of us, and the 2 years of the Trump administration are going to be an incredible thing. And I don't see a way to amend the Constitution because it takes about 10 years to do that, as you all know, to allow all the states to ratify what 2/3 of the House and 3/4 of the states would approve. So I don't see the path for that, but I can tell you that we are not going to take our foot off the gas pedal. We're going to deliver for the American people, and we've got a great run ahead of us. We'll have 4 strong years. Yeah, second round. Yeah.
The White House was able to find funding for the military, for WIC, for farmers. Should the White House now be able to find some funding for the SNAP program if they've done it for all these other ones?
They certainly tried. I mean, one of the reasons that this shutdown has not yet been as painful as it might otherwise have been is because the president is bent over backwards, the administration. Think of it this way. The White House, the executive branch in a shutdown, has a large control panel full of dials. Under the Obama administration, they turned those dials, the pain dials, to 10 immediately. You remember it was so egregious to us speaking of our veterans, I mean, they put yellow crime tape around the World War II memorial so that people who'd served their country could not go visit the memorial. They wanted it to hurt. The Democrats have shown, and they've said in their own words, this is leverage. It gets better for them every day. They don't mind inflicting pain on the American people if they can somehow get some sort of political points out of it. The Republican Party is the opposite. And President Trump has proven that. Every day of this shutdown, he has tried to move funds around to find unobligated funds to cover the bases, to get the troops paid in the middle of October, and to make sure that WIC funding is not resolved. You know how he's getting women, infants, and children funding done? They did some very creative legal research I've quite admired. They found a statute in the 1930s that they could use to say that some of the tariff revenue could be used to cover nutrition because so much of that was transported over the border. So they've done some creative, amazing things to mitigate, to lessen the pain as much as possible. We've been out all over the country, all these Republicans. I mean, Craig Goldman flew in here to do this press conference with us, but he's been in Texas serving his constituents. Stephanie Bice been in Oklahoma. Harriet Hageman's been out west. You got Burgess Owens out in Utah. They've been serving their constituents, and August Pfluger, but they came in to help us articulate what's going on. All that effort has mitigated the pain, but we're running out of the resources. We want to fund SNAP, but they did the legal research, and they could not find a 1930s-era statute to bootstrap that one. The contingency fund was approved by Congress, and when the Democrats voted against the CR, they voted against the ability of us to use that money. And so 42 million people are going to suffer because they're playing political games. There's nothing, the White House has run out of it. They have all the pain dials turned back to just a 0 or a 1 as best they can. But when you're out of resources, they go all the way up. And it's out of their hands. It's out of our hands, and that's why we're so frustrated. You don't see the happy warrior Steve Scalise pound the podium very often. But we're angry about this. We're frustrated. We should be, because it's wrong for the people, and all of you should be angry about it as well. And I know many of you are. Yeah, Ray.
What's your reaction to yesterday's purge of senior ICE officials from field offices around the country? Are you worried that that's going to result in less experienced leadership at ICE? And again, when is it time for Congress to do some oversight?
I don't know any of the details of that yet. I just heard about that literally. I was walking in, so I'm not going to comment on it until I find out the details. I know some of these things get misportrayed. Yeah, back row. Yeah.
On the auto pen investigation and the Oversight Committee's report that was released this morning, some Senate Republicans have suggested that perhaps there isn't a legal avenue to void the pardons that were signed by by the auto pen, these executive authorities. Do you think that there is a legal avenue? That's what the investigation concludes, that any of those executive actions that were signed by the auto pen or the Biden administration should be void. Do you think that's possible?
Nothing this incredible and insane has happened before. This was not something that the forefathers anticipated. It's unprecedented. There is no legal precedent because no previous president had an auto pen or had the audacity to have people signing things on their behalf when they didn't even know what was in it. And so we're in uncharted waters as a nation. As we say up here all the time, we're so tired of making history. I just want normal times, normal Congress again. But the Biden administration was unprecedented in so many ways, and the president was checked out of his job for quite some time, and everybody knows it. And there was a cover-up. The people around him who were they would give him scripts to follow. They would point him literally in the direction, stand here, sir, wave like this. And he didn't know what he was signing. So there's all sorts of just incredible implications. It sounds like a terrible novel or something, but this is reality. And so the pardons, for example, he pardoned categories of violent criminals and turned them loose on the streets. And he didn't even know what the categories were, apparently, much less the individual people that he pardoned. They're invalid on their face. I mean, I used to be a constitutional law litigator. I would love to take this case and go into the courts and make that law to set the precedent. You can't allow a president to check out and have unelected, unaccountable, faceless people making massive decisions for the country. Think of the executive orders that were signed with the auto pen. When he paused LNG exports, liquefied natural gas, to our European allies around the world, I confronted him about it, by the way, the one meeting they allowed me to have with him as Speaker in the Oval. And he looked at me as if it hadn't happened, and he said, I didn't do that. And it occurred to me, he wasn't lying. He honestly didn't know. Do you know what the implications of pausing LNG exports were around the world? It made all of our European allies had to buy their natural gas from Vladimir Putin, which fueled his war machine, to go, conduct his war on Ukraine. It destabilized our energy sector, And it had us step back 3 or 4 steps of energy dominance around the world. Thankfully, we're back now because we have a commander-in-chief who's fully in command and understands the necessity, energy policy being national security policy. I could go on and on and on in every category. Huge implications. What does it mean for us? How do you unwind it? I don't know. But it will be determined in the courts ultimately. And these are unprecedented cases of first impression, as we say, because it's never been tested before. But man, is it dangerous stuff. Front row. Because you win the boot game today. Go ahead.
Norman, Your Honor. I'm curious, you guys, a lot of you were talking about the government unions demanding the Democrats reopen the government at this point. Do you think that that is building on President Trump's gains with labor unions from the 2024 election? Do you think that this is a sign of a different relationship between House and Senate Republicans and federal government employees? Do you welcome these people in your tent?
Of course.
Thinks that these are not traditional allies of yours in Colorado.
President Trump and the Republican Party achieved some very important historic things in the last election cycle. We had a true demographic shift in the election. We had a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters, for example, who came into the Republican Party, record number of African-American black voters, Jewish voters, union workers, young people, demographics that had not traditionally in recent years been with the Republican Party in large numbers, and they came to us not reluctantly, but with hopeful anticipation. Why? Because they wanted a return to common sense, and they saw what the other party had done to them with their terrible policies and their terrible ideas and the radical, woke, Marxist, progressive agenda, and they realized it didn't work for them. So they came to us and they said, can you do better? Well, we did. We have. And we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, and all of our legislation and everything the President's done with executive orders, fulfilling his promises, are codifying those things and doing the rest of our legislative agenda, which is being held up right now because of this. We're delivering for those people. So it is not a surprise to me that union workers would come enthusiastically supporting common sense. What we're asking for here is common sense. They're supporting the party. They're supporting the president because they know who's working for the American people and who is not, who is causing and inflicting pain on the American people. The contrast has never been more clear. We say all the time, this is not your father's Democratic Party. I grew up in Louisiana. When I was a kid, I didn't even know a Republican. Literally, like everybody was Democrat. And, the Southern Democrats, conservative Democrats down in Louisiana. That party doesn't exist anymore. My grandfather would not recognize what this party has become. He would clearly, they'd all be Republicans because the Republicans stand on the side of common sense and working families, hardworking, middle class, lower class earners in the country. We drafted the Working Families Tax Cut to be geared for them, to help them. And we infused the legislation with all this pro-growth policies so that all boats will rise. People see that. They see the effects. Ideas have consequences, my friends. And the policies and ideas that are advanced by the Republican Party are right for America because they comport with our founding principles, and we stand on those principles to defend them. And by contrast, on the other side of the screen, they're going for communism and Marxism. Take your choice. Jake.
You've been of the opinion that you're not interested in these one-off funding bills, SNAP, traffic control. Is that still your view?
We voted September 19th to fund every one of those priorities. And every Democrat in the House except one voted to not fund them. The Democrats are playing games. They put a few of the one-off bills on the floor, as you've seen in the last week or so. They put a bill to pay the troops and pay essential workers, and the Democrats voted it down. So it would be a futile legislative effort for us to do this again repetitively in the House and send it over there so Chuck Schumer and the gang can play games and spike it. It's a waste of our time. They need to vote for the clean, continuing, nonpartisan CR, turn the lights back on and get the country working again, and then we can resolve all the rest of the issues that were always on the calendar for the remainder of the year. I want to thank our Republican Study Committee colleagues for being here and standing in the gap for your constituents. All the Republicans out there, they're still at work. They're not even watching these press conferences because they're working for their constituents. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.